We find ourselves in the ever-annoying bait game, gonna respect the potential Stone Edge, and of course running a Shadow Pokemon, I get baited. However, don't get mad, get even, I farm up bait. With the Dragon Claw does the opponent. Fall for the bait, yes they do. Jamie Finn 1415 is the best master baiter in the world, and it's time to get Cobalion out of here. Welcome back to the channel. I had around 6 or 7 days off from battling. I've been super busy with a lot of real life stuff. Unfortunately, this is just a hobby, but we're back at it today with a team I did showcase previously. After my mini break from the game, I tried running some Spice in the Great League to submit for CallumOnToast Battle of Spice competition, and I got absolutely clapped. My ELO dropped below 2500 and I was getting pretty pissed off, to say the least. So rather than continuing to tank, I thought I'm going to go back to my favourite league, the Open Ultra League. I tried a few different teams, and all I was seeing was a lot of Registeel and a lot of stupid Tentacruel. So I thought it's time to bust out Alolan Sandslash once again. I managed to gain around 175 ELO in 6 sets, and we're going to take a look at 3 of them today, with this team that I believe is the strongest Triple Shadow team for the Open Ultra League. With that being said, let's jump into the battles. And in game 1, we see another trainer of culture running a Shadow Sandslash. This is a pretty tricky mirror. Sometimes I like to call the bait, and sometimes I like to catch on Poliwrath. Apparently this time we're going for the catch. The opponent actually bait with the Ice Punch and Easy Tank, and then pivot out into their own Poliwrath. And holy moly, that is enormous! That is definitely a very, very extra large Poliwrath, and it looks ridiculous. Speaking of things that are ridiculous, me actually winning a Charge Move Pride event, my Poliwrath is very highly ranked. I believe it's a 0-15-14 or maybe a 0-14-14. Either way, is a very rare sighting, however I do not complain. The opponent looking for the full counter farm down. We reach the next gold, guaranteeing the knockout or a Protect Shield. We've now got Charizard with shield advantage. I can now send in Charizard, shield once, commit to the full wing attack farm down. The opponent fire off the Scald, and of course they get the attack drop. The opponent's final Pokemon is that ever annoying Flying Vulture. This is already GG's as my Sandslash has an energy lead. However, we fire off the debuff Blast Burn just to see how much it does, and it still does pretty absurd damage. My opponent then tries to get himself back into the game, making an Ice Punch catch back onto their own Sandslash. However, we see it coming in, fire off the Drill Run. We're then going to fire off the next Ice Punch, and the opponent's in a real tricky spot. They just sack the Sandslash, and then they're going to concede the match. GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we lead my evil Sonic the Hedgehog into Jellicent. A pretty nice lead, although not as good as you might hope. These non-stab Drill Runs don't do all that much damage. However, the quick move of our Legacy Shadow Claw do really start to add up. The opponent allows me a full free Shadow Claw, as they chose to instant throw rather than throwing an odd number, and I certainly do not complain. The opponent again going straight Surf. Sonic will survive, and you can see in the Zero Shield this is actually quite a close matchup. We throw 4 Shadow Claws and the Drill Run for optimal fast move time in 1 turn before the next Surf. Get that Jellicent out of here. The opponent sends out Virizion. We don't even survive 1 double kick. I can send in Charizard. The opponent then send out the stupid Tin Can. And we already look in a fantastic spot. I full send the Blast Burn, force a Protect Shield, then stay in school, kids, learn to count. We're going to catch the Zap Cannon onto Poliwrath. Of course, this is super effective, but Poliwrath, pretty thick. We are going to be able to survive 1, and the opponent's going to have a near impossible task of attempting to lock on farm down. We go straight for the Scald. Scald goes unshielded. The opponent's still looking for that lock on farm down. Poliwrath says no, counter farms down, and the opponent concedes the match. Heading into the next battle, our target has been acquired. This stupid squid is so annoying. It's actually probably, in my opinion, the best mon in the Open Ultra League this season. Make sure you pack a counter for it if you're not using it. It takes Big Tenta, 8 Poison Jabs for the first gold, and then 7 for the 2 after that. So we throw 8 Shadow Claws and the Drill Run on the CMP tie. The opponent invests an early shield, fishing for that attack drop. The RNG gods smile upon me today. We don't see the attack drop, and this time I actually opt to throw the Drill Run, 1 Poison Jab or 1 Shadow Claw before the CMP tie to try and not be too predictable. The opponent then invests their final Protect Shield and then bait me with an Acid Spray like a savage. However, Sonic undeterred fires off the Drill Run. Drill Run lands for huge damage, and despite them looking incredibly weak to Sandslash, we're always going to save a shield for Charizard, as Charizard with no Protect Shields is essentially dead weight. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, despite this being the Open Ultra League, Shadow Charizard cannot tank a hit for shit. The opponent then send out Zygarde, which is the complete opposite, as this thing has bulk for days. I'm going to attempt to catch Crunch onto Poliwrath. The opponent show great discipline, hold their energy. However, as they're really bulky, they hit like a wet noodle. The opponent full sends the Earthquake, and Poliwrath just simply does not care. The opponent then pivots out into Umbreon to answer my Poliwrath, a very questionable, as our counters of course hit for super effective, and you can see we've already got this bulky beast below half health. Of course, we're just going to save our shield for Charizard. The opponent fires off the last resort, securing the knockout. I send back out Charizard. We just go straight for the Blast Burn, as Blast Burn is going to be massive overkill. Zygarde's going to need to double up on charge moves. That simply isn't happening, and just for good measure, we're going to throw the BM Blast Burn to seal the deal. GG's and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we see another Tenta. Very happy to see it in the lead, as of course our backline doesn't really deal with Tentacruel all that well. Has anyone seen a Pokemon more common than this squid? It is absolutely fucking everywhere. Much like the previous battle, we farm up, throw the drill run on the CMP type, again gaining ourselves early shield advantage. The opponent again fire off the Scald, and we're 2 for 2 on no debuffs. Let's go. What I've seemed to notice is that Tentacruel leads seem to be pretty weak to Sandslash overall, as everyone seems to stay in. So this time I do farm up, throw the drill run again on CMP. However, as the opponent 2 shields, I'm actually going to throw 1 before, mindful the opponent might try and catch on something that resists ground, so I only throw 6 this time. Throw the drill run. Unfortunately, this won't be lethal as Tentacruel is so thick, they're going to be in perfect farm down range. Charizard usage has dropped in the Ultra League this season. If you can give it an energy lead and shield advantage, let me fucking tell you, this thing still cooks. The opponent save Tentacruel on 1 HP and a Dreamer, then send out Swampert. Swampert resists fire, however Charizard doesn't give a fuck. We rock them below half health. We then attempt to catch Hydro Cannon onto Poliwrath, and we're unsuccessful. However, as this is the poor man's variant of Swampert, just kidding, but the non-shadow isn't all that threatening. We know we survive an Earthquake. We're just going to look to save that shield advantage for Charizard. We tank the Quake, return fire with the Icy Wind. We know Tentacruel is alive, but it's nothing more than a sacrificial swap. The opponent chooses to send out the third, which is Mandibuzz, and then they throw on the CMP tie. Icy Wind hits are super effective, although it's not all that threatening. You can see it does around 25% as his Vulture is incredibly thick. As always, saving our shield for Charizard, but just be mindful the opponent might look to make that catch. I'm just going to continue to farm up. The opponent attempt to make the catch. We hold our energy, and the opponent concedes the match. GG's. In the next battle, the Kentucky Fried Chicken, a bird of death. This team's arch nemesis. We save switch into Poliwrath, and if the opponent's running Brave Bird, we're going to be straight in and straight out. Luckily for me, it's just a fly. I say just a fly. It still did like 90%. We tank it, return fire with the Scald, forcing ourselves a shield advantage. Of course, I can't return with Sandslash. I'm going to wait out my full clock, send in Charizard at the last second. We did get an attack drop, so we can tank 1 fly, although it's not going to be pretty. Even after a 1-stage debuff, that still does over half my health. Of course, we're going to need to start shielding now. We're going to shield at the next fly, throw 4 wing attacks and the Dragon Claw. Talonflame is now in Dragon Claw range, and as we threw, on turn 8, we won't take that next Incinerate, but you can see we're already rapidly running out of our health. The opponent sends out Giratina. We've got residual energy, good to go. The Dragon Claws are super effective, but they just tiggle. I attempt to catch the Dragon Claw onto Sandslash. The opponent shows me Poliwrath and is a big fat no thank you, and I instantly concede the match. Moving very swiftly on, Sandslash into Tapu Fini, a pretty neutral matchup, although I'll be honest, I do like being Sandslash here. The opponent fires off the Surf, which we easily survive, and we're going to return fire with the double drill run. Sandslash does win this in the 0 shield. Let's see if the opponent wants to start shielding. Hopefully with Tapu Fini in the lead, Charizard will be good against whatever's in the back. The opponent just completely sacked Tapu Fini, then look to snipe with Annihilate, and we're going to pivot, saving Sandslash as the potential 3rd shield. This is actually the first time I've played since Annihilate has been released. Poliwrath survives the Shadow Ball, returns fire with the Scald. I imagine the opponent's going to shield and look to counter farm down, and again we'll set up Charizard with shield advantage. Again, we're going to have to wait out our full clock, as I will be switch locked and the opponent has the ability to pivot. So again, I let the clock completely cool off and then send out Zard. The opponent builds up to a Shadow Ball, but of course people love to bait Shadow Pokemon. We call the Ice Punch and we manage to save a shield. We're then going to farm up, throw the Dragon Claw on the CMP tie, and this turns out to be a huge mistake as Annihilate has more bulk than I was expecting. Due to a miscalculation, I am going to be forced to invest my first Protect Shield. However, the opponent's so weak to Charizard. Oh, hello, Reggie. We full send the Blast Burn. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. They near get one shot. And for no reason whatsoever, we're going to catch the Zap Cannon or Focus Blast onto Alolan Sandslash. From here, it's going to be a very clear path to victory. We're just going to farm up, throw the double Dragon Claw as the opponent is going to be switch locked. The opponent should really let this go, however they choose to invest to protect shield, so we're going to fire off Dragon Claw number 2, and when the new ape does return, it's going to die to 1 wing attack, and that's going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. In the next battle, yet another Kentucky Fried Chicken Bird of Death. Same as last time, we pivot into Poliwrath, and the opponent this time, don't chip me, they just send out Granbull. It's not even Shadow, what is going on? We do manage to force ourselves shield advantage, and at this stage we're just going to put all on Zard. Of course, Sandslash absolutely dreadful, as we're double weak to fire. The opponent really should close combat me, and if they do, we're about to be vanquished back to our Pokeball. Boom, by Sandslash. As the opponent did lower their own defense, I'm going to go for the wild's most aggressive wing attack farm down. We do get the full wing attack farm down. We leave absolutely loaded. Okay, this could be winnable. Back out comes Talonflame. We throw 2 wing attacks and the blast burn for optimal fast move time in the first blast burn. Gets them below half health, and the second one will be securing the knockout if the opponent choose not to shield, which they don't. The opponent's final Pokemon is Giratina, and it looks like I'm going to save 2 shields for next season, and we're going to unfortunately take the loss. Well, it is what it is. We're here for a good time, not a long time, and that was a very quick battle. In the next battle, we see XL Skarmory. We're going to pivot into Poliwrath, and the opponent send out Gliscor. As the opponent counter-switch Gliscor, I imagine they've got Aerial Ace. They do throw after 5, and the opponent actually opts to bait me with a Night Slash. Bit of a strange players. Even though they had Aerial Ace, I wouldn't shield, as we would survive and get the Ice Wind off regardless. I have actually encountered one mad lad or girl, obviously shout out all the girls at PvP that actually had Aerial Ace and Night Slash. It looks like this opponent going straight Night Slash all the way, which allows us to make Icy Wind number 2, and we force both Protect Shields. Last season's move rebalance did nerf Earthquake. So actually Shadow and Shadow Crime from full health, Sandslash does actually survive a Shadow Earthquake. This is now 2 stage lower, so I've got no intention of shielding the opponent, of course. Full send, then aggressively pivot out into Shadow Poliwrath and 2 shield Zard, baby. Let's go. This opponent doesn't even build up to this goal. They're after only 7 counters. It can only be an Icy Wind or perhaps a Power Up Punch or Ice Punch, but regardless, I'm going to invest 1 Protect Shield, then throw 6 fire wing attacks, throw the Blast Burn on the CMP side, high Poliwrath, by Poliwrath. The opponent now has nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, and they're going to concede the match. Moving on to the next one. Sonic into Giratina. Where are all the Giratinas? We've not actually seen too many. Surprising, the opponent safe switches into Greedent, and of course I respond with Poliwrath. That's how I like to play this matchup. Throw 1 Icy Wind, then counter farm all the way down. We're going to tank multiple body slams, which is advantageous for me, as it's going to get Poliwrath low, allow a minimal farm for whatever the opponent brings in next. Apologies if you can hear any background noise in this video, as I'm in the UK and I actually think my house is about to topple over as the wind is ridiculous. Hopefully you can't hear too much of that. However, returning to the Coventry, we do leave low. We leave with the Icy Wind, which we're going to chuck into the returning Giratina. Of course, his hits were super effective, but Giratina has bulk for days. The opponent's actually running Dragon Breath, which is even better for our Sandslash. The opponent send out Cobalion, and we pivot out into Charizard. In the 2 shields, this is essentially the bait game. I full send the Blast Burn the first time in case the opponent looked to call the bait, and of course the opponent put up that Protect Shield. The opponent farms up all the way to 96 energy. We respect it, and of course we get baited. So in case you're wondering our account, 96 minus 35, 61. They throw 1 further double kick, they're at 73 energy, and again we get baited. However, 2 can play that game. I recognise the opponent's going to look to correctly shield up 2 Blast Burns, double bait and land the Stone Edge. So I throw the Dragon Claw bait, then we throw the Blast Burn on the CMP side, get that Cobalion out of here, we pivot into Sandslash, and we're going to take that game. Sandslash into Alolan Ninetales. The battle of the Ice types is very much in my favour. The opponent safe switch into Jellicent, and I have no great response, so we're just going to stay in and look to realign our Charizard onto that Ninetales later. So Sandslash running Shadow Claw, a 2-turn move. Hex is a 3-turn move, so we just want to throw out 1, 4 or 7, giving away only 1 free turn each time. The opponent is going straight Surf all the way, so we know we survived this. And we've got Jellicent low enough that we can handle it with either our back 2 Pokemon. Again, I 1 and throw. The opponent give up trying to flip switch, and we manage to realign. The opponent then send out Annihilate, which is invisible. This glitch is ridiculously annoying. I did complain to Niantic support, and apparently they've fixed it. So Poliwrath's essentially dead weight, assuming the Ninetales is on charm. We're just going to use it as a damage sponge. The opponent throw the Shadow Ball. We survive. We're going to return fire with the Scald, and then it's 2 shields Zard time. Not only is this ape invisible, what the heck is going on with that charge move? We send out Zard. The opponent continues to stay in, and they're just giving me a very easy win con. We shield up the Ice Punch. The opponent still isn't pivoting. We'll shield up the next Ice Punch as well, and we'll just double Blast Burn Ninetales. Swifter on Charm is going to be 1, 4 and 7. This one's actually on Powder Snow, so we're going to throw the first Blast Burn, forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. We're then going to throw the second one on the CMP tie. The opponent might be using Annihilate, but they're the one about to be annihilated. Blast Burn absolutely vanquishes them, back to their Pokeball. We Wing Attack Farm Down, and that's going to be all she wrote. In the next battle, we see Sandslash into Clefable. So a Steel type versus a Fairy should be advantageous, right? This is actually very neutral due to Meteor Mash being a ridiculously good move. If you have a very high ranked Sandslash like myself, you do survive 2 Meteor Mashes on like 1 HP and a Dream. We fire off the first Drill Run. CMP here is actually IV dependent. I'm quite surprised we win, so the opponent must be running a very high ranked Clefable. You can see they're left at 1 HP and a Dream. We'll also be at 1 HP and a Dream, but we are going to be able to Shadow Claw farm down, so the opponent actually looked to snipe, and we can now send in Poliwrath onto this Swampert. Unlike my opponent earlier in the video, this is a Shadow, so I'm going to respect the Earthquake. The opponent, of course, Masturbate. However, I don't really give a shit, as this Icy Wind will obviously lower the opponent's attack, as it's got a 100% chance of applying that debuff, meaning we're going to be able to survive the next Earthquake a lot easier. This one definitely is going to be the Earthquake, but Poliwrath does survive. I'm not going to be able to counter farm down, so I am going to opt to throw the next Icy Wind. I doubt the opponent's shield. A Swampert is so low, we managed to secure the knockout. What is that third Pokemon? I'm looking top right. The opponent sends out Registeel. I instantly pivot into Charizard. We know Clefable is alive at 1 HP and a Dream. I continue to farm up. We managed to Wing Attack, farm down Clefable. Back out comes Reggie, and of course we're going straight Blast Burn. The opponent correctly shields up the first. We're going to shield up this incoming Zap Cannon. Does the opponent get the debuff? Yes, they do. However, no debuff is going to save this Tin Can from the wrath of our Shadowzard. This Blast Burn is debuffed, but still lands for huge damage. Even if the opponent farmed up to 100 energy, there'd be 5.5 counters off a Focus Blast. The opponent actually threw the Zap Cannon as soon as they got it. So we got 7 counters to knock out, and it's going to be an easy counter farm down for Poliwrath, and we take that game. In the next battle, we see the Angry Sonic Mirror, everyone's favourite mirror. This is the bait game. As is Shadow and Shadow Crime, we're going to call the bait. The opponent masturbate like a potato, and we're not doing any of that nonsense. We full send the Drill Run. Does the opponent respect the damage? Boom, Mr. Opponent. They're now going to be 1 ahead of us. So as we get the energy for the Ice Punch, we're going to catch the Drill Run onto Poliwrath. The opponent can't really refarm up energy, as the counters would tear him apart, and the opponent actually send out Pelipper. I'd love to run XL Pelipper, although I don't have a good IV one. It's not a Shadow, but we'll give it an honorary mention. I think the Shadow Flying Toilet is my most eagerly awaited Shadow Pokemon. However, it isn't being released in the next rotation, although this one that is coming up, I think it starts Sunday, is looking pretty dope. You're going to see a huge misplay here as well. The opponent is actually at 100 energy, so after taking the extra, I should insta-throw this Ice Punch. Instead, I one and throw, play to a CMP tile. I do not win, and it looks like I'm actually trying to give the opponent a way back into the match. So to try and get a little advantage, I go for an undercharge. I'm going to instantly pivot into Zard, looking for the snipe. The opponent actually responds super quickly and send out Annihilate. The opponent farm up to a Shadow Ball. I've got 2 shields. I'm likely going to get baited, but at this point, I don't really care, as Charizard is going to be looking primed to sweep. Unlike the previous battle, I recognise Dragon Claw won't knock out. I full send the Blast Burn. The opponent looks to call the bait. They get taken out. Back out comes Sandslash, and we're just going to be able to double Blast Burn. Throwing a silly Dragon Claw bait here would be a lose con. Another lose con would be the opponent catching. So you remember, we did simul swaps. If you look at my bottom right, you're going to see my timer pops up. So I should actually pause before I throw this Blast Burn. I don't, and I'm so lucky the opponent didn't catch. Always pause if the opponent's timer up to prevent any free catch. The opponent doesn't catch, and we managed to win despite me not playing all that clean. In the next battle, we see Sandslash into Steelix. Very nice. The opponent anticipate me throwing the Drill Run on alignment, I guess, as they switch out into a Flyer. I'm never going to throw on an alignment. We throw the Ice Punch, forcing a Protect Shield. We're just going to stay in, and the opponent is going to say, fuck that, concede the match, and we're going to move very swiftly on. If you follow me on Twitter, you would have already seen this battle. For those of you that don't follow me on Twitter, I'm not going to spoil it, but the game absolutely fucks me over. We see a tough lead. We farm up some energy, attempt to catch a Crunch. The opponent hold all their energy and answer my Poliwrath save switch with Galarian Weezing. We fire off the Scald. We don't see the attack drop, and at this stage, I'm just going to completely sack Poliwrath. The opponent's got Play Rough. They're going to knock me out. They actually throw Brutal Swing. So potentially, they're either baiting or they've got Overheat. We might actually be able to flip this matchup. We fire off the Icy Wind, forcing a Protect Shield. The opponent still needs to Play Rough, and you're going to see they're going to continue to Brutal Swing, which suggests They're looking to 2-shield here and then potentially one-shot my Sandslash with an overheat. However, we've got a surprise as we've got Zard. The opponent fire off another brutal swing, which we survive, and we're going to now force both shields or take switch. The opponent completely go all in on Weezing, and it's at this moment we get screwed over. I send in Zard. Of course, I should sneak a wing attack, which we don't. We get denied. And that is going to allow Weezing to make one further brutal swing, which is going to put me in body slam range. You can see the next wing attack did take him out, so they shouldn't have got that move off. Back out comes Greedent. As I'm in body slam range, of course, I am going to shield this up. I'm then going to 1 and look to catch the body slam onto Sandslash. Okay, we're still in the game. However, disaster. It's Poliwrath in the back. It's actually not a Shadow Poliwrath. I'm not sure if this is better or worse. 2 drill runs essentially knock out Shadow Poliwrath. However, I think with the Shadow bonus, we probably wouldn't have made the second drill run. The opponent commits to the full counter farm down. Of course, they're going to Icy Wind. However, I don't shield this up. I might get counter farm down afterwards. We're going to need to make double blast burn against the Squirrel, and we're actually going to be 1 short. I 1 and throw. The opponent is now receiving the energy for the body slam, so unfortunately we're going to lose this game when we should have actually won, as we wouldn't have been in body slam range if the game worked as intended. But it is what it is. We all know this game is a crock of shit. Moving on to the next one. Tough lead. Swampert, of course, it can one-shot me with an Earthquake. However, this opponent doesn't even build up to it, so we know we survive a Hydro Cannon. It's not pretty, but we do survive. Drill Run is more energy efficient, but I'm going to throw the Ice Punch to look to force Swampert to dump its energy sooner. The opponent actually shielded the Ice Punch, and you're going to see there they did attempt to throw it on the CMP tie. I know I lose, so I just took the extra. The opponent throw the Hydro Cannon. We can now send in Poliwrath. The opponent pivot into G-Weezy, and Charizard is out here looking for redemption. Brutal Swing, not the best move. Charizard easily survives 1. We actually survived 2. Well, I am going to look to shield up the next one. It takes Weezing 5, 4, then 5. So I could throw 5 wing attacks and the blast burn. However, after 4, I'm at the double blast burn. So I'm going to throw this, and if the opponent shields, we'll win CMP. The opponent completely sack Weezing. Back out is going to come Swampert, but Swampert finds itself in blast burn range. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Charizard is a Swampert counter confirmed. You heard it here first. The opponent's final Pokemon is Glisserpod. We bank the blast burn and send out Poliwrath. This is by no means a good matchup for Poliwrath. We may as well use it somewhere. We're just going to look to get this thing as low as possible and probably put them into Dragon Claw range. We fire off the Scald. Scald, of course, is the way to go when all moves are resisted, as it does get same type attack bonus. The opponent then overfarms slightly too much on the CMP tie, so we can just shield this move up. Fire off the Icy Wind. If the opponent shields this, Charizard will win CMP. However, luckily for me, the opponent recognises that. Don't waste my time and just let the charge move go. Moving on to the next one. Sonic G-Weezy. It looks like the opponent doesn't want to play the bait game, so they pivot into Jellicent. We're happy to stay in here. We'll just align Charizard with G-Weezy later. If we do lose switch advantage, as the opponent pivoted, they might actually have Poliwrath Brutal Swing, which is something to take note of. The opponent full send the Shadow Ball. We're going to 1 and throw the Drill Run, looking to get this Jellicent out of here. The opponent doesn't look to make a play at taking switch, and we're looking top right to see what the opponent sends out. Whatever they send out will be switch locked, whereas we aren't. So we pivot into Poliwrath, and the opponent sends out Swampert. The opponent throws the obvious Hydro Cannon, just trying to get their switch timer to call off. The opponent then pivot out into G-Weezy, and as we've got an energy lead, this isn't a bad matchup. We throw the Scald. Scald goes unshielded. We don't see the attack drop. However, we are about to find out if the opponent's got Poliwrath. Of course, I'm not going to shield up Poliwrath. We're just going to save our shields for Charizard. The opponent does indeed have Poliwrath, but it doesn't really matter, as I had no intentions of shielding up Poliwrath. We're going to tank the first Brutal Swing. We're then going to throw the Dragon Claw on the CMP. So our Dragon Claw is double resisted, but you're going to see they're going to be deep in the red. I really hope this Dragon Claw knocks out. If it doesn't, this is a misplay. However, the double resisted move does secure the knockout back out. Comes Swampert. We've both got 2 shields apiece, so we're just going to go straight Dragon Claw all the way. The opponent is going to be forced to shield everything. We're going to look to catch onto Sandslash as they reach the double Hydro Cannon. That's a bit nasty. Sorry, Mr. Opponent. The opponent does undercharge. They only get 1 further mud shot, and then they're going to concede the match. And that is going to draw to a close today's showcase. This has been yet another roller coaster of a season for me in GBL, but this team is phenomenal. So if you're a fan of Shadow Pokemon and you're looking for a strong team in the Open Ultra League, give this one a try for yourself. One of my favourite battlers is a very goated Pogo King uses himself in the 2900s and was a fan of it. He went positive and actually reached a season high ELO last time Ultra League was around. So that is proof that this team definitely works. If you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to a battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.